Good morning, my creative friends, and welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. I am Dr. Minette Riordan, still a little on the coldy side, can't seem to shake it, so I apologize if my voice is a little froggy this morning, but I didn't want to miss being here with all of you today and talking about good morning, Tori, one of my favorite techniques. I originally learned this from Whitney Freya in her Creatively Fit coaching certification many, many moons ago. She was one of my very first painting teachers, and I loved working with her. And it's called Soul Scribbles, and I'm going to demonstrate the process for you this morning. And we're sort of continuing the conversation I started on Tuesday about how do we use art to work with our emotions and stay present on the page. But before I do that, I wanted to let you know about our brand new membership program, the Sisterhood of Wisdom and Wonder. This is a monthly membership program. Good morning, Tori. Good morning, Judy. Designed specifically for women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, looking for more creative ways to use art as a tool for personal growth, for managing all the midlife transitions, all the many challenges that seem to come our way. Oftentimes, we're supporting our adult kiddos or just going through empty nest and working with or trying to support aging parents. We're dealing with our own health issues, changes in career, moving cross country. So many things happen. They say that midlife for women, more change happens in that period, anywhere from your 40s all the way to 70 happen in that period of time than the rest of your life put together. It is a time that is sort of fraught with change. And when I was doing some writing recently and looking back across the last 10 years of my life, I'm going to be 60 in January, and reflecting back over this last decade, there's been so many big changes. Selling one company, starting two others since then, moving cross country twice, aging parents, becoming an empty nester, lots of health changes, going through menopause, like all the things have happened. And it can be really difficult. It can be really lonely and isolating. You can feel like no one else is going through this experience. And what I feel like is that we as older women need a community of our own that's designed just for us, a place to come together, to create, to share, and to connect. And that is how I ended up creating the Sisterhood of Wisdom and Wonder, where we use art as a personal practice for daily self-discovery, for creating more meaning and value in our life, for creating a life that is aligned with our values, where we're discovering what's next, what's our purpose, why am I here? We still have so much value to give and to contribute. And the link to join the sisterhood is in the description of this video, and you can go check it out. It's on sale this week only. I think the sale ends Monday, September 30th for just $33 a month. You can come along and check that out. It includes 4 live calls a month, lots of different themes, and it's a lot of fun. I'm really loving it. We have over about 115 or 120 women already gathering and really appreciating the deep connection. We had a beautiful community call yesterday where so many topics were covered, from selling art to what books are we reading, and what we're working on, where we're being stuck, and what's going on with all of us. And I think we need that. We need a place where we can have those deeper, vulnerable conversations about all the different things that we are working on. So thank you for listening. And now let's dive into the juicy part of the program, where we're going to talk about some soul scribbles. I may have done this before or showed this before, excuse me, here on this channel. Probably going to keep this a little short this morning, trying to get over this silly congestion. I'm having fun filling up this journal not with, beautiful pages, but with things that are a little bit meaningful. And if you missed the Tuesday video, I showed a few different techniques for figuring out how am I feeling right now? How do I want to feel? Where am I feeling all the feels in my body? And today I want to share a really fun one with you called Soul Scribbles. And during the pandemic, I filled a whole journal, a small journal, with these soul scribbles. I found them to be so calming, and every evening sitting on the sofa with, Brad, I found myself drawing these over and over again. I should have pulled that out to show you because they were really fun. But the idea of a soul scribble is and it's gonna, for some of you that are familiar with Neurographica, there's some elements of that I add to this, but this is not a neurographic process. I am not certified to teach that, but I am inspired by that process. And I am doing this with a black Sharpie. You could do it with a pencil, with any kind of a pen or marker, any tool that you have on hand. And I'm going to start this in the way that I start my creative practice most days, which is simply to start by asking a question. This is a great tool to use if you're seeking an answer or some clarity about something really specific going on in your life in the moment. And today, the question that's on my mind is, what do I need most to just finally kick this congestion that I've been holding on to? And I have a sneaking suspicion about the answer and some of the different ways that I can do that. But I'm also, excuse me, also curious about what I might discover. I know how I'm feeling. I can name that feeling as frustration, right? Because I get better and then it kind of comes back again. My energy is great. I feel awesome. I just have this congestion and woke up this morning with a headache. So the question on my mind is, what do I need to get through this and focus on my health in the moment? So you can do this by closing your eyes. You could do it by keeping your eyes open, but I'm simply going to draw some scribbles on the page for just a few seconds. And that one feels like exceptionally scribbly. And then I'm going to take a moment to look at this. It feels a little chaotic at the moment, but I'm going to study this soul scribble and look for a shape, a figure, a part of a figure. I almost always see animals in my soul scribbles. You might see faces. And the secret is to turn the page and look at it in all the directions. So when I look at it this way, I'm seeing maybe a head and a body with a head resting on a pillow. And maybe what I'm needing is more rest. Or maybe there's an animal, like, how cats and dogs love to lie on their back with their feet in the air. Maybe that's kind of what that feels like. When I looked at it this way, don't ask me why, but I see a buffalo. Feels like there's this big buffalo head here and his tail and some big feet. I don't know what a buffalo has to say about health, but that's what showed up for me here. I'm not seeing much here, maybe a little puppy dog face and ear and body, and almost like it's looking away from all that chaos behind, so that one's not speaking to me. And then when I look this way, I'm seeing maybe a snake shape sort of rising up here. So maybe there's something about shedding skin and starting over new and fresh. So I just look at it in all the ways and all the possibilities. And this is where, for me, the fun part and the artful part comes in, is when I start to add the different elements and start to bring this character to life a little bit more. And here on this buffalo page, I can't even remember what a buffalo actually looks like, but I'm going to make it up. They definitely have a horn and they have some small ears and they kind of have a big snout. And they actually don't have giant eyes. They have kind of small eyes. Okay, that does not look like a horn, but they have these big horns. And when I think about being in Yellowstone last summer and seeing the buffalo, they're fascinating animals because most of the time they feel sort of lumbering. Maybe he's got a little tail here. They stop traffic everywhere they go. You know, they're just huge animals, right? And so when I think about the buffalo, they can seem ponderous, but they can actually run 35 miles an hour. And so I would not want to be in a stampede of buffalo by any means, right? They're very family oriented. Like I said, I don't know a lot about the symbolism of the buffalo, so I'm going to have to go look that up. But I love just looking at this and thinking about and remembering that moment. They roam, they're on the move all the time. So, some of the things that are coming up for me are that difference between when do I need to rest versus when do I need to kick into high gear. And when it comes to our health, we always need more rest. And I get really frustrated when I don't move through things quickly because I have a lot to do. I have a retreat coming up. I want to feel my best for that. And yet, what I'm hearing here is that I need to rest. There are also grass and plant eaters, right? So they're eating a pretty healthy diet for a buffalo. They're not eating a lot of junk food. Not that I eat a lot of junk food, but for me, staying away from dairy makes a really big difference in how I feel. Um, so he's kind of cute. So things to think about, just what do I know about the buffalo? And these, again, they're so fun and quick and easy to do. So sometimes it's that fast. You know, oftentimes we think about when we're working with our emotions or we're working in an art journal that we have to spend inordinate amounts of time, but it's not true. Apologize, you guys. And we can spend lots of time when we have it, but sometimes we have mere minutes to really be in the energy and the space of our art, but it still can help us to simply connect. Another way I like to use the soul scribble is as a mindful moment, an opportunity to just take a pause and to really zero in on presence, on how I'm feeling, very much like we did with the body exercise on Tuesday. And this one was very quick. This one, I'm going to slow my process down and do it a little bit differently, but I'm going to start in exactly the same way. My page is going to be vertical this time. Interesting. I don't usually have quite so many angled drawings. I normally have a lot more lines. Oh, so this one's kind of fascinating here. I've got some water here in case I want to add some color to these. So this one is where I might turn a little bit more towards neurographica. There's great videos on YouTube, so if you don't know what that is, you can go and check that out. But one of the elements of Neurographica is to come in and round off edges where things connect. Interesting, that one looks like a star. And I'm immediately seeing here in this drawing, this is an ear, and there's a face here. Maybe there's a little nose and a mouth. And that head is looking down in mindful contemplation. This marker's maybe not quite as juicy as I want. So maybe here's that leg. Can add another one. And it doesn't need to be realistic, but again, there's a sense of slowing down, of rest, of just being quiet here in the moment. I didn't sleep well last night, which I have been sleeping really well. Last night I woke up several times and found it hard to go back to sleep. I'm not worried about anything, but noticing, my body feels a little tired this morning. And I have a very full day today with lots of calls and lots of people, which is going to remind me to look for small moments like this to where I can just slow down, where I can be quiet, where I can catch my breath. I'm not much of a napper, and this for me is often as good as a nap. And I'm sort of curious about these lines. They feel, I don't know, there's something playful, like there's a ball here or some wings, maybe a little pterodactyl. Now, what happens if I turn my little character this way? Then there's this sort of energy and very pointy energy emerging there, and it may not be important at all. But notice how rounding these corners just shifts the softness of these edges. It's like zentangle for me, where it just also invites me to really slow down. And this, again, is a fun one to do in an inexpensive journal, and do one of these every day for a month and see what happens. You might be surprised by what you see, what you learn. And the concern I get most often from people when we're doing these soul scribbles is that they don't see anything in the images. And I think that also just takes some practice of learning to look. This is a great practice in mindfulness because we get to be quiet and we get to study and reflect, and it keeps us in that present moment awareness. I love coming in and starting to add some doodles or zentangle patterns and start to sort of, bring this to life a little bit more. Still not trying to make it too realistic, but just to be in the playfulness. This feels like a very playful, joyful, there's something very solid about this buffalo over here, and there's something very playful about this child, even though it's a very restful image, it's also playful. And as I'm adding these elements of nature, it's a good reminder that I will feel better if I find some time to get outside today, although we're having record high temperatures here and it's quite warm outside. And maybe I'll bring a little bit of character here. Maybe we're going to have some restful arms there. And there again, there's just something amazing with what we can do with a pen on paper without judgment, without perfection, without seeking to create something, but we can find answers to some of the questions that are on our mind, or we can just calm our busy mind simply by being here and present. At first, I thought it was going to be a little boy, but now it's definitely feeling like a feminine version. So the more that I sit here and work with this and play with this, the more sense I get that this is my inner child. And kids are great at resting. I remember being a kid and you just fall asleep wherever you are. When you're tired, you just go to sleep, right? I didn't ever, I'm sure as I got older, there was always that not wanting to nap and not wanting to miss anything. But there was also this sense of quiet rest and simplicity and playfulness. I definitely had a deep connection to nature as a child. So similar message, even though they're completely different images, like plenty of time for rest. I have a beautiful, spacious weekend ahead of me, a pretty quiet day tomorrow. So plenty of time to rest and play and sort. Good morning, Yvonne. So I'm going to do one more and see where we get to. I do sometimes like to add color to these, to do some watercolor washes or to come in with, my Derwents or some watercolor pencils and take the time to sort of feel into them. I could even start this process with something water-based, which would be actually, we'll try a different approach to the Soul Scribble. I'm going to come in with a black Stabilo Marks All pencil. This is one of my favorite tools in my studio and get a completely different effect. It is so fun, Yvonne. I love doing soul scribbles. So again, I'm just simply going to start just taking a few seconds to create this image. So what's interesting is this one all of a sudden feels like growth and expansion. This one was restful, but it had all these like pokey bits. Our buffalo here, there were big, round, loopy, just kind of going around and around, even though those messages ended up being the same. And this one, there's still some busyness and some openness, almost maybe another like small figure here in the center that's surrounded by a lot of support and a lot of growth. So they all have these very different feelings to them. So I'm going to come in with a brush and some water and activate that stabilo. I was watching a video this morning, someone talking about liquid charcoal, and I thought, ooh, that would be really fun for this. I also think acrylic inks or liquid watercolors would be fun for this, things where maybe we don't have quite so much control. And as I'm following over these lines, now what I'm seeing is maybe some kind of giant quirky bird here. Good morning, Jen. Make sure you go back and watch the beginning of the replay, Jen. So these are soul scribbles. This is another way of working with emotions or seeking answers to questions on our mind. This is one of my favorite ways to just practice a little mindful self-awareness and presence on the page and keep it super, super simple. Yes, and I did talk about that. It has some similarities to Neurographica, and sometimes I add some neurographic elements, like in this version, but truly these are a process I learned long before Neurographica came around over a decade ago, called Soul Scribbles, where we're creating these really simple scribbles and looking for characters in the scribble. He does look very regal, doesn't he? I love it. So there's something here about this eye and this nose and maybe a wing up here. And maybe these are his funny little feet. So then my question I'm sitting with today is about my health, right? And how can I move through this cold and get rid of this congestion that I've been holding on to? And the message from these two were a lot about rest. This one feels, if I think about that word regal, or I think about the wings, right? This is still, the bird is restful. He's not flying, right? And animals are such great examples of rest versus action. They're in action when they need to be, and they rest a lot. We're going to go ahead and give him an eye, and maybe we'll sharpen up this beak a little bit. And when this one is completely dry, yes, exactly, and exactly how it feels, of his feet tucked up under his body for sure. And when this one is completely dry, that stabilo will dry permanent. And then I can come back, and this one feels like it would be a really fun one to add some color to. And if you've never worked with a Stabilo Marks All pencil, they are one of my favorite art journaling tools. And they are very, very black. They're great for adding shading and color. All right, he feels like he's starting to come together a little bit here. It's interesting to do this in grayscale. And these soul scribbles amaze me. I definitely, have pages and journals full of these. I love that, sweet son. And Tori, if you don't have one of these, don't go buy one. You're going to get one at the retreat. It's one of our retreat supplies for next week. And there's so many things you can do with the Stabilo. You can make a line and add the water to it, like how I started, or I love dipping it directly into the water because you get these really beautiful, bold black lines. And this simple process, so I look at the meaning of the character. What might the lesson be for me here? This one's so fun. I know I have several that are super short like this, and use them down to the nib. And just the reminder to take the time to be here, be present, to give myself permission to catch my breath and to connect with what is going on here, right? To connect with what is going on here. And while the congestion is annoying, I'm also just feeling so much joy in my life right now. I have a wonderful retreat. There's going to be 14 of us next week, and so many women that have gathered for the sisterhood of wisdom and wonder. And we have our first story next week, and just such an amazing group of women. Like, I'm so inspired. I'm so excited for all of it, Tori. It's going to be amazing for sure. All right, he's pretty darn cute. And I always thought when I have one like this, how fun would this be to transfer this to a canvas and to paint this? But he's pretty cute. I'm definitely seeing a desire to add some yellows and oranges, a little obsessed with fall colors right now, and can see coming back in with a pen and adding a few more marks, but he doesn't need a lot, right? That there's something about just allowing these characters to emerge. And the other thing is that I'm noticing is the difference in quality between using the Stabilo versus using the Sharpie. One of my favorite black drawing pens is an Identi pen, and I don't have one sitting here. They're all on my other table, and I love them for this kind of process. I do like starting with the bold black ink, and even this one I can see coming back in and adding some shading or color to my buffalo. But I want you to notice the difference between this is like a true soul scribble. This one, there's that little bit of neurographic. This one got a little more sketchy. And I'm noticing the process. I'm noticing how I feel in my body. Like, I feel calmer, a little more rested already. And this took, half an hour, right? Half an hour. And again, I can see coming in here and adding some color. Look at that, handy dandy. Here's some pieces of Derwent Inktense blocks, which I love. I'm not even sure what color this is. I'm going to dip that right in the water. And what if I just let it be okay to have it mix with the gray? And I don't need to even color the whole thing. Maybe I can just trace some of these lines and just add some little pops of color here and there. I can definitely see taking this one into a painting and wondering. I've been having so much fun with my folk art painting, and I completed 5 different paintings, which was my goal for this month, was to create a bunch of small ones, and I have a bunch more in the hopper to work on design ideas. But I'm like, what if I could marry this quirky drawing of characters with my folk art? What might be possible? I don't know, but wouldn't it be fun to experiment? And so you never know what's going to emerge. I remember Whitney one of the first times, so I learned this originally from Whitney Freya, and I remember her talking about how the animal that emerged from one of her soul scribbles, it was either an owl or an eagle, and it became her animal of the year. It became this sort of symbol and energy and inquiry throughout the whole year. So even this feels fun and playful, and I'm loving how the colors are moving and shifting and blending. Yeah, and thank you for saying that, Jen. I'm so glad that you are here this morning. And for me, it's starting, like I realized, I've been in some conversations this week and realized like how clear my process is, right? And I'm trying to figure out how to name that process, which is a little trickier, but it's always starting with this prompt, a very clear prompt, and that prompt could be a poem, a story, or a question like yesterday, simply, how am I feeling today? Followed by art making, followed by the inquiry process through journaling or discussion, right? So I'm doing a lot of that verbal processing out loud here with you. But if I were doing this on my own, I would make sure that I took 5 minutes to really sit with this and look at it and write down some words. Consider what's emerging here, what feels important, what's the story that wants to be told. And for some reason, as I continue to look at this quirky dude, he feels like a funky turkey, right? And in the Native American tradition, a turkey is considered the giveaway is the symbolism of their generosity, of gifting of their feathers, gifting of their meat. And so a lot of times, we may not consider turkeys to be amazing animals, but they really are pretty spectacular. We have a couple of flocks of turkeys around here. I know, Jen, I wish I had taken a picture of him in black and white, and then I could have played with him in some different ways, but I can certainly continue to play with him. And as it dries, I can come back with, more ink, more drawing, more marks. I can bring some of the lines back as I wish. But I love where he is right now. And so now I'm going to look up the symbolism of the buffalo and of the turkey and see what is the message here, right? Is there, something that I'm not seeing that these animals have to share with me? All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me. That's it for today. I will see you next Tuesday. October is going to have a theme all about fall, all about release and letting go. Probably going to be doing intuitive collage, maybe some more of these soul scribbles, but we'll have some specific new themes around fall and release for October. I'm super excited about, and I will be here Tuesday. I will not be here Thursday next week, which is, I think, is at the, let's see, 4th, October 4th, because I will be leading my retreat up in Estes Park, Colorado. But as always, I appreciate you being here live. I so appreciate all of you who stop by and watch the replays. And very grateful for all of you. My heart feels very grateful when I think about the months ahead and moving into fall. A lot of gratitude. Have a beautiful rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much.